Hi everybody, welcome back for another video. Today we're going to ask a question that I've been thinking about for a long time, and that's in my high-powered Pepperball TCP. This is running Grimburg Joules, so these are heavy 8-gram projectiles, and it is power tuned, and you can see that the velocity screw, maybe you can see, maybe you can't, is screwed in pretty far. And we know that this is in 10 turns from flush, and it shoots at about 36 joules with a 5-inch barrel for the first shot. And so that would normally be way too powerful in order to run something like a Pepperball. For this demo today, I'm going to be using the inert rounds. I'm not going to be using live chemical powder. It's just too risky to do in the house. But I'm going to shoot these with the high power TCP, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently than you might expect. And so what I plan to do is I want to preload, and I'm going to have my Grimburg Joules in the magazine, and the breech is going to have a Grimburg Joule, and then there's going to be one of these added into the breech, into the barrel, and we're going to then have two projectiles. An 8-gram projectile and a 3-gram projectile. And by doing that, what we'll be doing is we'll be basically slowing down the amount of force on the Pepperball so that the Pepperball will be firing at a FPS that is comparable. It will be lower because a 3-gram projectile is going to slow down the 8-gram Joule. But you're going to have essentially an 11-gram double projectile going out, and it's going to be going out at a little bit less than the normal FPS of the Grimburg Joule, which I know is in the low 300s. And so I think that's, even if it was at 300, 310, these can easily handle that FPS. And so it's just something that I've always thought about trying, and I think it's important to realize that these are going to go out at pretty much the same rate, and they're going to push. And at least that's my hypothesis. So we'll find out what happens. But we're going to have one of these and one of these, and the bolt is going to push, and it's going to go out. And this one is not going to overtake. It's heavier weight. So if anything, this one is going to, over time, will start to spread out a little bit more. But this is just basically going to act as a intermediate in between the bolt and the Pepperball, and it's going to slow down the velocity enough that we can successfully fire the Pepperball. The advantage of this is you may want to be shooting your TCP, or you have a situation which you need to fire, and what you do is you carry a bunch of these in your pocket. So you just reach in your pocket, and you might have these inside of something, but if you just have these in your pocket, they're quite durable, they're waterproof. And then you can just drop one in the barrel, and you're pretty much ready to go. And so you have the ability to go from a kinetic round, which is already preloaded and powerful. And that's obviously, for many people, they may think, why bother? But there may be a situation, and you may on the particular day think, well, I want to throw a Pepperball in there and make it spicy, and I want to get that first shot with a Pepperball. And so you can throw it in there, and you're basically ready to use the Pepperball. Or you could wait, and you get a couple shots in, and you say, well, now I want to add a Pepperball. The advantage of this approach by just dropping it in the barrel is that it is not having to go through this magazine, and it's not having to go up here and then make essentially a 90-degree angle and go out. And I think that's where a lot of the breakages occur, is if this slams up and then under the pressure it goes out. This is just a tough turn for a Pepperball to make without some breakage. Especially, anything above, I think these will probably handle 330 FPS, maybe 350, but I really wouldn't trust anything higher than that in my launcher, because it could bust, explode, and you got dust everywhere, all this powder inside your marker. But with this approach, we're avoiding all of this and all of this, and we're basically just dropping it in here, rolling it down, and as long as we keep a little bit of an angle, we're good to go. Once it gets too far over, you see it'll fall out. And there may be better ways to, you know, to make these stay in that people might figure out. I haven't thought about that yet, but I first want to test and just see how durable these are on that first shot. So let's go down and give it a shot. All right, I think we're ready. I'm going to load the first one. We got the Pepperball TCP here. Let me charge it up, because that would be the first thing that we would do. So give it a charge. And we're going to drop one of the purple Pepperball inert rounds. Drop it right in. And we're going to give it a shot and see what happens. So let's hope there's not a cloud. And I expect that on the sheet it should not break. So let's see. Oh, it fell out of the barrel. So I guess that's one thing that would probably make this very difficult. So you have to be very careful about how you shoot. I was trying to also make sure I get it on the camera. So let's see. Uh-oh. I saw it fired, and I saw also a little bit of cloud right here, but you can see most of it landed and it did break. So let's go take a look at that real quick. So yeah, that broke, but the majority of the Pepperball did make it all the way to the target. And we got our Grimburg Joule down here covered in powder. Some of the powder fell, but we got a pretty good break. Now, it is entirely possible that the Joule is following the Pepperball, and if they happen to be on the same line, the Joule is going to then collide into the Pepperball on the target. And even if it's a soft target like this, the Pepperball can still get broken. So I was actually thinking that both of them would fall, and we wouldn't have a breakage. But it might be that this is hard enough. But we'll try one or two more and see what happens. All right, ready for the next shot. The next purple Pepperball is in. Now that one did not break. So let's go, let me show you. Right here it is. Let's see. Oh, that's the Joule. The Joule is here. And it's my original Joule. Those are my two Joules. Put those in the pocket, and here it is. Here's the other Pepperball. Oh, actually it did break. This one is broken right along the seam, as you probably can see. So it did fracture. But it fired intact, did not explode in the launcher. It came, hit the target, and it did crack. So we're getting good breakage of the Pepperballs on this Kevlar sheet. And as you can see, it's a mess. But it is firing correctly. There's no powder in the launcher. All right, we'll do one more. That'll make it 3. And I think this will be, you know, if we all 3 of these, obviously the power is going down with each shot. So the chance if it didn't break in the first 2, it's not going to break on this one, but we'll go with one more and see. There, I saw a cloud. So that one was quite a bit different. I saw a cloud, but we'll examine the barrel, but I don't see any evidence that there's any breakage here. I do believe that there's collisions happening in the air on the way, which I think is very interesting. Yeah, there's a cloud of not pepper powder, baby powder, just hanging in here now, which was not what I wanted to do. So I think I learned something here. And let's walk down. see what we got here. We got our Joule, another Joule, which has powder on it each time. So I believe that that means that it is actually colliding with the Pepperball. And then here's one of the Pepperballs. I don't know if this is the same one. Got one here. I know that's a piece. So the Pepperballs are breaking, but that one did not even make it to the target. That one exploded very soon after it left the barrel. So they're getting out of the barrel, but there's no guarantee that it's going to make it all the way to the target. And it may still end up exposing you potentially if it's breaking halfway between you and the target. Because I definitely could smell the powder, and most of the cloud I would say was about right here. And that's about 5 feet in or so from my shot, which was about 20 feet right here. So you're getting a breakage, you're getting a cloud here on the third shot. The first two shots made it all the way and collided, but you can see that the third shot, there was no impact on the target. This is without Pepperball. I put a couple holes in here. This is just a cheap little plate, but it's plastic. It's not very thick, but I thought I'd just finish the magazine. Okay, final conclusions. First of all, I examined the barrel, and I don't know if you can see here. I'm going to give it a little bit of light and see if I can get it on camera. There is no powder inside the barrel. It is completely fine. And that's exactly what I would have expected, because it's just blowing everything out. So that ball is not way back here at the breech, and it's not exploded. It clearly made it out of the barrel every time before you saw the clouds on the video. I've gone back and looked. And even if it did, even if it broke, you know, on the way out here, everything is just going to get blown out. So you don't really have to worry with this approach about a breakage in your launcher. And that was my number one concern for why I haven't tried this kind of thing before. So that was the one thing we learned. And I think that was the most important finding, is that you can get a Pepperball delivered at essentially the FPS that you would if you had tuned this down for Pepperballs. You can get it out. And the beauty of it is that the follow-up right behind that Pepperball, right after it hits, this hits. And so 2 out of the 3 times, I believe that's what happened. And so I believe what happened was the Pepperball hit the hanging sheet, and then soon after this one collided. And they may have interacted in the air at some point, because one of them was broken along the seam, and I saw a little puff of cloud in the air for each of those first 2 shots. There was a little puff of cloud before it looks like it impacted. So there may have been, these two were probably trailing each other, and there may have been some breakage just starting, but I think most of the breakage obviously occurred on the sheet, and that's where you got the delivery of most of the powder. The third shot, for whatever reason, and maybe it was the angle, maybe I had the launcher at an angle where this one started to roll ahead, and then this one had a chance to hit with a little more force, because that initial collision is what really you're trying to avoid. You want these to be as close together as possible in the barrel, so that when they launch together. You don't want one of them up here and one of them here, because what's going to happen is this is going to launch, and because all the air is going to be behind this. This is almost, because of the bore match is so good, it is essentially a closed system. Everything behind the Joule is where your air pressure is. And as the Joule moves along, the air pressure will move along. But if you have a ball up here and a Joule here, this ball is going to remain stationary until the Joule gets up here, and then it's going to collide. And that's when you would have a risk of breakage in the barrel. And so I think that's why it's important. If you are going to do this, you really do need to have an angle so that they're actually touching. You want them to be touching. You don't want one up here, one here. Then you're asking for trouble. And I think that could have happened, and that could be why at 5 feet out, there was enough of a breakage that this thing just completely broke. Or it could be that they just interacted as they got out, and so there's some variable there. Worst case scenario, I look at that as not a bad thing. If you shot, you still hit your target with your Joule at 20 feet. But let's say at 5 feet you established a nice cloud, provides a barrier between you and the target. And so now the target not only got hit with a Joule, but now there's a cloud of pepper powder between you and the target, and they would have to run through that to get to you. So I think that's a win-win as far as I'm concerned. So I don't see any negatives with this, other than if you just are, you know, hungry for more joules of energy, and you don't want to decrease that by adding extra weight. You want to keep this at 8 and not 11. That's the only reason I can think of why you might not want to do this. Or you're just completely against using a chemical round, or you're doing it in your home and you don't want to bother. So a lot of reasons why you might not want to do it, a lot of reasons why I haven't bothered all this time, but it's just another option. I don't want to belabor the point, but there are a lot of combinations that you could do. You don't have to use a Joule. You could use a burner kinetic round and 2 pepper balls, or 2 burner rounds and 1 pepper ball. So there's a lot of different things that you could do with a pepper ball if you want to go that route. But I think if you're going to do that with the burner balls and the pepper balls, you're essentially committed to a pepper ball route because you're using 3-gram projectiles. I think with this approach, you can still have your standard TCP loaded and ready, and then at the spur of the moment, if you decide that you want to throw in a pepper ball, you can throw in a pepper ball and you're good to go. So it's just something that's good to know, and I hope it's helpful for you. If you found this kind of experiment helpful for you, please give it a like. Share it with anyone that might be interested, and also subscribe to the channel for more, because we aim to do more experiments and testing with these air guns. There's a lot of fun things that we can do. It doesn't have to always be so serious, but everybody take care out there, and we'll see you in the next one.
She knows.
She knows she's on camera. What is it? What is it, Mango?